My name is Natalie, and I am 32 years old. Last month, my sister Lauren sent me a wedding gift list that nearly gave me a heart attack. An apartment, luxury car, diamond jewelry, European vacation, and designer furniture. Who asks for all that? I calculated, the total over $500,000. Being reasonable, I chose the jewelry. The cheapest option at $15,000. Her response, a text that read, "Pick all 5 or do not show up." Before I continue my story, let me know where you are watching from, and hit subscribe. If you have ever dealt with entitled family members growing up as the oldest child, I always understood that certain responsibilities came with the territory. Our parents brought Lauren into the world when I was 8 years old, and from that moment, the dynamic in our household shifted dramatically. Lauren became the center of attention, the baby who could do no wrong, while I was expected to be the mature one who should know better. Our childhood home in suburban Boston was comfortable, but not extravagant. Dad worked as a manager at a local manufacturing company, and Mom taught at the elementary school. We were solidly middle class, but Lauren was raised as if money grew on trees, at least when it came to her wants and needs. I still remember Lauren's 6th birthday party. My parents transformed our backyard into a Princess Wonderland, complete with a hired Cinderella character, a custom castle cake that cost hundreds of dollars, and gift bags for guests that were more expensive than anything I had received for my own birthdays. That same year, my 14th birthday was acknowledged with a small cake after dinner and a modest gift card to a bookstore because college was coming up and we needed to be practical about expenses. School was another arena where the disparity became evident. When I needed a graphing calculator for advanced math, I babysit for 3 months to save up enough money. When Lauren needed the same calculator years later, my parents bought it without hesitation. Along with private tutoring sessions to ensure she excelled, I maintained a 3.9 GPA through my own determination. Lauren received rewards and incentives from our parents for each A on her report card. Family vacations highlighted the preferential treatment as well. One summer, we visited Cape Cod, and I wanted to try parasailing. The answer was a firm no because it was too expensive. Later that same day, Lauren expressed interest in a dolphin watching tour, and tickets were purchased immediately. I can still feel the sting of watching from the shore as she waved from the boat. As we grew older, the pattern continued. I took out student loans and worked part-time jobs throughout college, graduating with debt. But proud of my self-sufficiency, Lauren attended a private university fully funded by our parents, while I shared an apartment with 3 roommates to make ends meet. Lauren lived in a modern off-campus apartment by herself because she needed quiet to study. Despite these differences in how we were raised, I always tried to be a good big sister. I drove 3 hours each way to attend her dance recitals, helped her with college applications, and listened patiently during her numerous relationship dramas. I wanted to believe that our bond as sisters transcended the inequality in our upbringing. After college, I built my career methodically, starting in entry-level accounting positions and gradually working my way up. Every promotion was earned through late nights, additional certifications, and consistent performance. Meanwhile, Lauren bounced between jobs, quitting whenever she felt underappreciated or faced criticism between positions. Our parents subsidized her rent and expenses, never expecting repayment. When Lauren turned 24, she asked to borrow $3,000 for a career development opportunity that turned out to be a vacation to Miami with friends. I reluctantly lent her the money after she promised to pay me back within 6 months. 3 years later, I'm still waiting for that repayment, though she has since acquired a designer handbag collection that makes her Instagram followers envious. Throughout all this, I maintained contact with Lauren because despite everything, she was my sister. Blood is thicker than water, or so I kept telling myself. Our relationship existed in a complex space where genuine affection mingled with unresolved resentment. I celebrated her successes and comforted her during setbacks, even as I acknowledged the inequality that had defined our relationship since childhood. I had hoped that as adults, we might develop a more balanced relationship, perhaps with age and maturity. Lauren would recognize the privileges she had enjoyed and develop empathy for others, including me. But old patterns are difficult to break, especially when they have been reinforced for decades by parental enablement. Even with all this history, nothing could have prepared me for what happened when Lauren got engaged. The sister who had always received more than her fair share was about to demand the impossible, and I would finally be forced to confront the unsustainable nature of our relationship. My life at 32 is stable, but far from luxurious. After 10 years in the accounting field, I have worked my way up to a senior position at a mid-sized marketing firm. My salary is decent, allowing me to live comfortably, but not extravagantly, in a one-bedroom apartment about 30 minutes outside of Boston. The walls are thin, the appliances are outdated, but the rent fits my budget while allowing me to save for my real goal, buying a modest home of my own someday. Each month, a significant portion of my paycheck goes toward my remaining student loans. Another chunk enters my house fund savings account. What remains covers my basic living expenses with very little left for indulgences. My furniture is a mix of second-hand finds and budget-friendly pieces from discount stores. My 6-year-old Honda has over 100,000 miles on it, but I maintain it carefully, hoping to squeeze another few years of service from it. My wardrobe consists primarily of practical, professional attire purchased during sales or from outlet stores. I treat myself to dinner out maybe once a month, and my idea of a vacation is a long weekend at a friend's lake house where I can stay for free. Coffee is brewed at home in a basic coffee maker not purchased daily from expensive cafes. I clip coupons, compare grocery prices, and track my spending meticulously in a budget spreadsheet I created. This careful financial management has allowed me to build an emergency fund and make steady, if slow, progress toward my goals. I take pride in my self-sufficiency and responsibility, even if it means forgoing many of the luxuries that others my age seem to consider necessities. It was against this backdrop that I received the elaborate cream and gold embossed wedding invitation in my mailbox. Lauren, my 24-year-old sister, was engaged to Robert Wilson, the only son of a wealthy family who owned a chain of high-end car dealerships across New England. The invitation announced their engagement and upcoming nuptials with a save-the-date for a ceremony at one of Boston's most exclusive hotels. My initial reaction was genuine happiness for Lauren, despite our complicated relationship. I wanted her to find love and stability. I hoped that marriage might finally usher her into true adulthood, with all the responsibility and maturity that entails. Perhaps Robert, who came from a family known for their business acumen, would be a grounding influence on my perpetually flighty sister. A week after receiving the invitation, Lauren invited me to lunch to discuss wedding details. We met at an upscale restaurant where the menu had no prices listed, a detail that immediately made me anxious. Before I could suggest an alternative, Lauren had ordered champagne and multiple appetizers, waving away my concerns about the cost with Robert, gave me his credit card. "This is all covered throughout lunch." Lauren spoke excitedly about her plans: the 5-tier cake, the custom-designed gown being made by a famous designer, the honeymoon in the Maldives. Each detail she shared seemed more extravagant than the last. When I gently asked about their budget, Lauren laughed as if I had told a particularly amusing joke. "Budget, Natalie. This is the most important day of my life. Besides, Robert's parents are covering most of it, and they have more money than they know what to do with. Did I tell you they're giving us a house as a wedding present? Not just any house, but a brownstone in Beacon Hill." I listened, nodding and offering appropriate sounds of amazement, while mentally calculate how many years of my salary it would take to afford even a fraction of what she was describing. 2 weeks later, I met Robert and his family at an engagement dinner held at a private room in a 5-star restaurant. The contrast between our worlds could not have been more stark. While I had agonized over finding an appropriate dress within my budget, Robert's mother casually mentioned that her outfit had been flown in from Paris the previous day. His father ordered $1,000 bottles of wine without glancing at the price, and the gifts they presented to the couple included keys to a vacation property in Martha's Vineyard. Throughout the evening, I noticed how Lauren seamlessly adjusted her behavior to match her new social circle. She discussed art collections and European destinations with practiced ease. Though I knew for a fact she had never shown interest in art museums when we were growing up, and her only trip to Europe had been a post-graduation tour funded by our parents. As the wedding date approached, the financial pressure on me increased. Lauren asked me to be her maid of honor, which I accepted with mixed emotions. The role came with significant expenses. A designer bridesmaid dress that cost more than my monthly rent, shoes to match professional hair and makeup, and of course, transportation to and accommodation at the 5-star hotel for the 3-day wedding weekend. Each time I expressed concern about the mounting costs, Lauren dismissed my worries with variations of, "It is just money," or "You only get married once," or the particularly stinging, "If you had chosen a better career path, this would not be an entry issue." I swallowed my retorts, reminding myself that this was her special time and that maintaining family harmony was worth the financial strain. Little did I know that the bridesmaid expenses were just the beginning. Lauren had plans for my wallet that went far beyond anything I could have imagined. The email arrived on a Tuesday evening as I was preparing a simple dinner of pasta and jarred sauce in my small kitchen. The subject line read wedding gift options for my amazing sister, and seeing Lauren's name in my inbox initially brought a smile to my face. That smile froze and then faded as I opened the message and began to read its contents. Dearest Natalie, the email began with a warmth that would soon prove deceptive as my only sister and maid of honor. I know you want to give me something truly special for my wedding. To make it easier for you, I have created a list of gift options that would make me the happiest bride ever. Since you are my sister, I know you will want to go above and beyond a regular wedding gift. Here are the options I would truly love. What followed was a numbered list that made me choke on my water. 1. A starter apartment in the Back Bay neighborhood, $350 to $2,000. 2. A Mercedes GLE SUV in pearl white, $85 to $2,000. 3. The Tiffany Victoria Diamond Collection, set with matching earrings, necklace, and bracelet, $15,000 to $2,000 for a 1-month European honeymoon package with first-class flights and 5-star accommodations, $30,000. 5. The Restoration Hardware Cloud sectional living room, set with all accessories, $25,000. The email concluded with, I know any of these would be within your means if you truly wanted to make my special day perfect. Love you lots, Lauren. I read the email 3 times, convinced it must be some kind of joke, or that I had misunderstood something fundamental to the total value of the items on her gift options list exceeded half $1 million in amount, so far beyond my financial reality that it bordered on absurdity. My hands shaking, I called Lauren immediately, hoping for clarification that would make sense of this outlandish request. Lauren, I just got your email about wedding gifts, I said when she answered, trying to keep my voice level. There must be some mistake. These items are all extremely expensive. Oh, I know they are investments, Lauren replied cheerfully, as if we were discussing the weather. But you only have one sister, and I will only get married once. Well, hopefully, she added with a laugh. Lauren, I said slowly, I do not make that kind of money. My entire annual salary would not cover even the apartment you have listed. There was a pause before Lauren's voice took on an edge. I recognized from childhood tantrums. Natalie, do not be so stingy. I know you have been working and saving for years. You do not even go out or travel or do anything fun with your money. What else are you saving it for? The conversation deteriorated from there. Lauren accused me of not loving her enough, of being selfish, of failing to understand the importance of her wedding day. I tried to explain my financial reality. The student loans, the modest savings that represented years of careful budgeting. But she dismissed each point as an excuse. If you wanted to, you could make it happen, she insisted. People take out loans all the time for important things. By the time we hung up, I was shaking with a mixture of anger and disbelief. I immediately called my best friend Jessica, who had known both Lauren and me since high school and understood the dynamic between us. She wants me to buy her an apartment, I told Jessica, still stunned by the audacity of the request, or a luxury car, or a month in Europe as a wedding gift. Jessica's explosive response validated my own shock. Is she out of her mind? Who asks their sister for a house? Even the cheapest thing on that list is more than most people spend on cars, let alone wedding gifts. I know, I said, sinking onto my worn couch. I honestly do not know what to do. If I tell her no, she will make the wedding miserable for everyone. You know how she gets. What you should do is tell her to shove that list somewhere. The sun does not shine. Jessica has said bluntly, but knowing you, you will find some compromise that still costs more than you should spend because you always try to keep the peace. Jessica's assessment was accurate. After a sleepless night weighing my options, I decided that I would stretch my budget to purchase the diamond jewelry set, the least expensive item on Lauren's outrageous list. It would mean emptying a significant portion of my emergency fund, but it would be a generous wedding gift by any reasonable standard, and hopefully enough to satisfy Lauren without completely derailing my financial security. The next morning, I emailed Lauren. I have thought about your gift list, and while I cannot afford most of the items, I would be happy to give you the Tiffany diamond set as my wedding gift. I hope you understand that this is already far more than I would normally be able to spend, but I want to make your day special. I sent the email before leaving for work, hoping that my compromise would be accepted with grace. I should have known better. The response came just as I was settling at my desk with my homemade coffee. My phone buzzed with a text from Lauren that made my stomach drop. Pick all 5 or do not show up. I stared at the message, unable to process the ultimatum it contained. Surely she could not be serious. I took a deep breath and typed back. Lauren, please be reasonable. The jewelry set is $15,000, which is already more than I can comfortably afford. I want to give you something nice, but I cannot possibly afford all 5 items. Her response was immediate and harsh. I knew you would be selfish about this. You have always been jealous of me. If you really loved me, you would find a way. Robert's cousin is giving us a yacht for our wedding, and she is not even immediate family. My hands trembled as I replied. That is wonderful for Robert's cousin, but she must be in a very different financial position than I am. I am not refusing because I do not love you, but because I literally cannot afford it. The jewelry set is already going to empty my emergency savings. Lauren. Emergency savings. What emergency? You are just being dramatic to get out of doing something nice for me. This is the most important day of my life, and all you can think about is your precious money. Fine. If you will not give me all 5 gifts, then at least do the apartment and the jewelry. That is a fair compromise. I felt a headache building behind my eyes. Lauren, there is no compromise where I can give you an apartment that costs more than $350,000. I do not have that kind of money. I could not get a loan for that amount, even if I wanted to, Lauren. Whatever. I thought I could count on my sister, but I guess I was wrong. Do not bother coming to the wedding if you cannot support me properly. I do not want to look at your judgmental face anyway. I was stunned into silence, unable to formulate a response to her cruelty. Before I could gather my thoughts, my phone rang. It was our mother, Natalie. What have you done to upset your sister? She began without preamble. She just called me crying about how you are ruining her wedding. I explained the situation as calmly as I could, emphasizing the unreasonable nature of Lauren's demands and my offer to purchase the expensive jewelry set despite the financial strain it would cause me. Well, my mother said after a pause, it is her special day. Could you not just take out a loan or something? Your father and I have already contributed so much to the wedding itself, and you know how sensitive Lauren can be. It would mean so much to her. I could not believe what I was hearing. Mom, she is asking me for over $500,000 in gifts. That is not reasonable by any standard. Would you and Dad buy her an apartment as a wedding gift? That is different. My mother replied dismissively. We are already paying for the wedding. Besides, you do not have children to support like we do. Lauren is 24, not a child. I pointed out frustration mounting, and I cannot afford what she is asking. It is that simple. The conversation ended with my mother sighing dramatically and saying she would try to talk to Lauren, though. Her tone suggested I was the unreasonable one who needed to adjust my attitude. Later that afternoon, I received a text from Robert. Hey, Natalie. I just wanted to say, I am sorry about all this gift stuff. Lauren is just excited about the wedding and wants everything to be perfect. I'm sure you two can work something out. She really values your relationship. While his message seemed conciliatory on the surface, it carefully avoided acknowledging the unreasonableness of Lauren's demands or taking any responsibility for reining in his fiancé's expectations. It was a polite nothing of a message that resolved nothing. By evening, word had spread through our extended family and mutual friends. My phone buzzed constantly with messages from relatives and acquaintances, most of whom had heard Lauren's version of events, that I was being stingy and unsupportive, that I was trying to ruin her big day out of jealousy. A few close friends who knew me well stood firmly in my corner. Jessica sent me a bottle of wine with a note that read, "For dealing with Bridezilla, stay strong." My cousin Michael, who had always seen through Lauren's dramatics, called to offer moral support and assure me I was not crazy for refusing her demands. But they were the minority. Most messages contained some variation of, "Cannot frighten you, just make her happy," or "Family is more important than money," or the particularly galling, "It is just stuff." But you only have one sister. The pressure continued to mount over the next several days. Aunts called to reminisce about how close Lauren and I had been when she was a baby, conveniently forgetting the years of unequal treatment that followed. Friends from high school reached out to suggest crowdfunding options, as if the problem was my lack of creativity in raising the money, rather than the absurdity of the request itself. My father, who had initially stayed out of the conflict, finally called 5 days after the initial demand. "Natalie," he said, his voice tired, "I know Lauren can be difficult, but this wedding is important to the whole family. Many of my business associates will be there, and it would reflect poorly on all of us if there was obvious tension between you girls." "Can you not just find a compromise, Dad?" I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "I have offered a compromise. $15,000 for jewelry is already far more than a typical wedding gift. I cannot compromise on buying her an apartment or a luxury car. It is financially impossible for me." He sighed heavily. "Your mother and I might be able to help with part of it. Maybe we could split the cost of the car." I was speechless. After years of watching my parents subsidize Lauren's every whim while I worked multiple jobs to put myself through college, they were now offering to help me buy her an extravagant wedding gift, rather than addressing her unreasonable expectations. "That is not the point, Dad," I finally managed. "The point is that she should not be demanding these things from anyone, let alone her sister, who she knows cannot afford it." "You have always been the sensible one, Natalie," he said, as if this was a compliment rather than an acknowledgement of the unfair standard to which I had been held my entire life. "Lauren is different. She feels things more intensely. This wedding means everything to her." By the end of the week, I felt isolated and overwhelmed. The constant barrage of messages, calls, and emotional manipulation had left me questioning my own judgment. Was I being unfreeze, Annabelle? Was my reluctance to bankrupt myself for Lauren's wedding a sign that I did not love her enough? In quiet moments of clarity, I knew that I was not the problem, but years of conditioning to put Lauren's wants above my needs had created deep grooves of doubt and guilt that were difficult to escape. I found myself lying awake at night scrolling through my budget spreadsheets, trying to find some mathematical magic that would make her demands possible without destroying my financial future. The worst part was the loneliness. With each passing day, I felt more like the villain in a story where I should have been, at worst, a supporting character. Lauren had always been skilled at crafting narratives where she was the protagonist and everyone else existed to further her plot. Now I found myself cast as the antagonist in her wedding drama, and the role felt as ill-fitting as it was painful. The truth began to unravel on a Saturday morning, 10 days after Lauren's initial gift demand. I was scrolling through Instagram, something I rarely did, but had been checking more frequently to gauge the public narrative Lauren might be spinning about our conflict. What I found stopped me cold. Lauren had posted a series of photos from her bridal shower, which I had not been invited to after our gift dispute. In one image, she was standing next to a large poster board titled "Wedding Wishes," where guests had apparently written down gifts they planned to give the couple. Zooming in, I could make out several notes referencing items from the list she had sent me. "Cannot wait to see you driving your new Mercedes, and your apartment is going to be gorgeous." With growing suspicion, I navigated to her profile and began examining her recent posts more carefully. There were numerous references to generous family gifts and my amazing sister, who manages investment funds in Boston. The latter gave me pause because I did no such thing. I was an accountant at a marketing firm, not an investment manager. I switched to Facebook, where Lauren was more active with family and childhood friends, and found messages that made my blood run cold. In a comment thread about wedding planning, Lauren had written, Thankfully, my sister is loaded and taking care of the big stuff. Perks of having a sister who works in finance and has no kids to spend money on. My hands shaking. I texted Jessica, "Can you send me screenshots of any wedding conversations Lauren has had in your shared groups? I think she has been lying about me." Jessica replied within minutes, sending multiple screenshots from a bridesmaids group chat. I was not part of the messages revealed Lauren explicitly telling her friends that I had millions in investments and was being secretive about it, but definitely loaded. She had apparently been promising expensive gifts for me for months, setting expectations with Robert's family that I was far wealthier than I actually was. Disturbed but determined to understand the full scope of her deception, I continued digging through mutual friends and social media. I pieced together a troubling narrative. Lauren had been positioning me as some kind of secret millionaire to impress Robert and his wealthy family. She had created an entirely fictional version of my financial status to elevate her own standing in their eyes. But the revelation did not stop there. A college friend who worked at a luxury apartment building in downtown Boston messaged me, "Hey, weird question, but are you co-signing an apartment lease for Lauren? She toured a unit here yesterday and mentioned you would be guaranteeing the stack lease since you have the better credit score." I had done no such thing, nor had Lauren mentioned anything about apartment hunting. A quick call to my friend revealed that Lauren had been viewing luxury apartments well beyond her means, telling leasing agents that her wealthy sister would be backing her financially. The final piece of the puzzle came from an unexpected source our cousin Emily, who worked at the bank where our family had accounts, called me privately. "Natalie, I probably should not be telling you this, but Lauren came into the branch yesterday asking about access to the family trust account. She mentioned you had authorized her to make a large withdrawal for wedding expenses. When the managers said they would need verification from you as the account custodian, she got really upset and left. The family trust account was actually a shared savings account our grandmother had established years ago with me as the designated manager. Since I was the financially responsible one, it contained a modest sum meant to help with family emergencies, not luxury purchases or weddings with mounting horror." I checked the account online and discovered multiple login attempts from an unfamiliar device. Lauren had been trying to access the account without my knowledge, though she had not succeeded in withdrawing funds. The attempt itself was a profound betrayal, but the worst was yet to come. As I continued investigating, I discovered an email Lauren had sent to one of her bridesmaids, accidentally sent to our shared family email account that she rarely checked, but I still used for family correspondence. The email contained a detailed plan for after the wedding. "Once I get the gifts from Natalie Roberts' parents will finally see. I come from money too. After that, I can gradually distance myself from my family. They are so embarrassing compared to the Wilsons. Natalie is the only useful one because of her money. But once I have what I need from her, I will not have to pretend to care about her boring life anymore." I sat in stunned silence, staring at those words until they blurred through my tears as the calculated betrayal, the years of pretending to care, the casual cruelty with which she dismissed our relationship once it had served its purpose, all hit me at once like a physical blow. Scrolling through my email history, I found more evidence. Lauren had forwarded my financial communications to herself, researched my company to estimate my salary, and even contacted my college alumni association, posing as me, to inquire about updating my employment information for their high achievers database. The scope of her deception was breathtaking. While I had been agonizing over how to afford the $15,000 jewelry set without compromise on my financial security, Lauren had been systematically lying about me attempting to access my accounts and planning to exploit and then discard me once I had served my purpose in her social climbing scheme. I discovered that Lauren had created a fake investment portfolio document with my name on it, showing assets of over $3 million, which she had accidentally left visible during dinner with Robert's parents. She had told them I was being modest about my success and preferred to keep my wealth private, explaining why I lived in a modest apartment and drove an older car. The final revelation came when I checked my email spam folder and found a notification about a password reset attempt on my primary banking account from the previous week. The IP address matched Lauren's home internet provider. The emotional impact was devastating. Each new discovery felt like another crack in the foundation of a relationship. I had thought, despite its flaws, was built on some measure of genuine love. The systematic way Lauren had planned to use and discard me revealed a coldness I had not believed her capable of even knowing her selfish tendencies. I spent that night alternating between tears and a quiet, simmering rage. I thought about all the times I had defended Lauren to friends who called her spoiled, all the birthdays and holidays I had spent carefully selecting thoughtful gifts while receiving hastily purchased items in return, all the times I had answered late-night calls about her dramas, while she ignored my achievements and challenges. But beneath the hurt and anger, something else was taking shape. Resolve. For the first time, I saw with perfect clarity that the dynamic between Lauren and me had never been a relationship between sisters, but a one-sided exploitation that I had enabled through my desire to maintain family peace at any cost. As dawn broke, I made a decision. The pattern would end now. I would no longer set myself on fire to keep Lauren warm, and I would ensure that she could never again use me as a prop in her social climbing performance. Monday morning found me in the office of Patricia Hoffman, a family law attorney recommended by a colleague. I had gathered every piece of evidence screenshots of Lauren's social media lies. The attempted account accesses the emails revealing her plans and the history of her financial demands. What I need to know, I told Patricia, is how to protect myself legally from any claims she might make about promised gifts or financial support. Patricia reviewed the documents carefully before responding. Based on what you have shown me, your sister has no legal claim to any gifts from you, regardless of what she might have told other people. However, I am concerned about her attempted access to your accounts that potentially crosses into criminal territory. She helped me draft a formal cease and desist letter documenting Lauren's unauthorized attempts to access my financial information and explicitly stating that I had made no promises of financial support for her wedding or any other purpose. This creates a paper trail, Patricia explained. If she continues making claims about your financial obligations to her or attempts to access your accounts again, we will have documentation of when you formally addressed the issue. My next stop was my bank. I spent 2 hours with their security department, changing all passwords, implementing two-factor authentication, and placing alerts on unusual activity. I closed the shared family account and transferred its contents to a new account solely in my name, documenting the transaction carefully with notes about the unauthorized access attempts. We recommend changing all your security questions as well, the bank representative advised. Choose answers that would not be known to family members. I followed his advice, replacing my mother's maiden name with the name of a fictional character, my first pet with a made-up animal, creating a fortress of security around my finances that even those who knew me intimately could not penetrate. That evening, I methodically worked through every account connected to my name, email, social media, investment accounts, retirement funds, credit cards, streaming services, everything. I logged out all devices, changed all passwords, and revoked all shared access. By midnight, my digital life was sealed off from Lauren's reach. The hardest part came next, confronting Lauren directly, rather than allowing her to control the narrative any longer. I decided to address the situation head-on with evidence in hand. I drafted an email attaching screenshots of her lies and manipulation, and sent it not just to her but to our parents as well. Lauren, I wrote, I have discovered your attempts to access my financial accounts, your lies about my wealth to Robert's family, and your plans to use me for gifts before cutting contact. I have consulted an attorney and secured all my accounts. I will not be providing any of the gifts you demanded, nor will I attend a wedding predicated on such profound dishonesty. I am copying Mom and Dad so they understand exactly why I have made this decision. Lauren's response was predictably explosive. Within minutes of sending the email, my phone erupted with calls and texts from her, ranging from rage to tearful pleas to threats. I let them go to voicemail, listening later with a detached sadness to her progression from denial to blame, to desperate negotiation. You are ruining everything, she screamed in one message. Robert's parents will think I lied to them. You did lie to them, I whispered to the empty room. That is exactly the problem. Our parents called next, their voices shocked and confused. My mother initially tried to minimize the situation. I'm sure Lauren did not mean those things she wrote. You know how she exaggerates, Mom, I replied firmly. She tried to access my bank accounts without permission. She created fake documents about my finances to show Robert's family. This goes beyond exaggerate. My father, to his credit, seemed to grasp the severity more quickly. I had no idea she was doing these things. Natalie, well, it is serious. Very serious. Yes, I agreed it is. And I need you both to understand that I will not be gaslit or manipulated into pretending it is not. Lauren needs consequences and professional help, not more enabling. They agreed reluctantly to meet with me and Lauren together to address the situation. I insisted the meeting take place at a neutral location, a private room at a local restaurant, rather than at their home where old family dynamics might reassert themselves. The family meeting 2 days later was tense and difficult. Lauren arrived with Robert, a tactical choice I had anticipated, hoping his presence would soften the confrontation. She had clearly been crying, her eyes red-rimmed, and makeup carefully applied to emphasize her distress. I had come prepared as soon as we were seated, before Lauren could launch into whatever narrative she had planned. I placed a folder on the table. In this folder, I said calmly, are printouts of everything. I discovered the social media posts where you lied about my wealth, the emails revealing your plans to use me and then cut. Contact the records of your attempts to access my accounts and the fake financial documents you created with my name. I have copies for everyone. I distributed the evidence methodically, watching as our parents and Robert looked through the damning documentation. Lauren's face cycled through expressions: defiance, fear, calculation, before settling on tearful contrition. I was just trying to fit in with Robert's family, she sobbed. They are all so rich and accomplished, and I felt so inadequate. I never meant to hurt you, Natalie. I was desperate and scared of losing Robert. If his parents thought I came from nothing. Robert looked stunned as he read through the evidence. You told my parents your sister was a millionaire investment manager. Lauren, my parents do not care about your family's money. They care that you have been honest with me. Our father, usually quick to comfort Lauren in any distress, SAT, silently reading through the documents, his expression growing grimmer with each page. Our mother alternated between gasps of shock and attempts to minimize. I'm sure she did not mean it quite like that. I meant exactly what I wrote. I said firmly, and I need all of you to hear me clearly. This pattern ends today. I will not provide luxury gifts for the wedding. I will not pretend to be wealthy to impress Robert's family. I will not allow my sister to access my accounts or spread lies about me. And I will not attend a wedding built on this foundation of deception. The meeting continued for hours, Lauren cycling through various tactics. Blame: you always made me feel inferior. Minimization: it was just some exaggeration. Excuses: the pressure of wedding planning made me crazy. And finally, when nothing else worked, a tearful apology that seemed more motivated by the presence of witnesses than genuine remorse. By the end, several things had been established. Our parents, finally confronted with evidence they could not ignore, acknowledged the seriousness of Lauren's actions. Robert, visibly shaken by the revelations about his fiancée, requested time to think about things, a phrase that hung in the air with ominous weight. And Lauren, seeing her carefully constructed narrative crumbling, agreed to begin therapy as a condition of any potential reconciliation with the family. As for me, I left the meeting with a strange sense of lightness. For the first time in my adult life, I had prioritized my own well-being over Lauren's demands and our family's expectation that I would always be the one to compromise. The boundaries I had established might be painful in the short term, but they were necessary for any healthy relationship moving forward. 3 days after our confrontation, Robert called me. I broke off the engagement, he said without preamble. The lying was too much. Not just about your money, but I found other things too. Once I started looking, she had created a whole fictional version of herself for me and my family. I am sorry, I said, and meant it. Despite everything, that cannot have been an easy decision. It was not, he agreed, but it was the right one. Thank you for having the courage to show me the truth, even knowing it might end. Things that took real integrity. His words stayed with me. In the weeks that followed, a validation of the difficult but necessary path I had chosen. The fallout continued, of course. Lauren alternated between rage and despair at losing both her fiancé and her planned exploitation of my finances as our parents struggled to navigate their relationships with both daughters. now that the family dynamic had been so fundamentally disrupted. But through it all, I maintained the boundaries I had established. I changed my phone number, limited contact with family, to scheduled calls, rather than on-demand availability, and continued working with my attorney to ensure my financial security remained intact. It was not easy, and there were days when the emotional toll left me exhausted and questioning whether the rupture had been worth it. But each time those doubts crept in, I reminded myself of the email where Lauren had so casually dismissed our relationship, once she had extracted what she wanted from me. I reminded myself of the attempt at account access, the systematic lies, the years of manipulation. And I knew that while healthy reconciliation might be possible someday, it would only come after fundamental changes in how we related to each other, not through my continued acquiescence to exploitation. 6 months have passed since the confrontation that changed everything. The wedding that was supposed to happen last month never took place. The elaborate venue, the 5-tier cake, the designer dress, all canceled. As Lauren's relationship with Robert ended, and the truth about her deceptions spread through the social circle in the aftermath, I have built a new relationship with boundaries, not just with Lauren, but with my entire family. Weekly dinners have been replaced by monthly ones with clear start and end times. Requests for money or favors are met with careful consideration rather than automatic agreement. When old patterns emerge, I address them directly rather than silently accommodating them. Lauren has had a difficult adjustment to this new reality without Robert and his family's wealth. Without the promise of my financial support, she has had to confront the consequences of her choices. 3 weeks after the engagement ended, she lost her job at the boutique where she had been working sporadically. Our parents, taking their cue from my firmer boundaries, declined to cover her rent indefinitely. For the first time in her adult life, Lauren has had to support herself completely. She found a job as an administrative assistant at a local business work she initially described as beneath her, but has gradually come to approach with more responsibility. She moved from her luxury apartment to a shared living situation with 2 roommates, a significant downgrade from the lifestyle she had envisioned for herself. 2 months ago, Lauren asked to meet with me one-on-one. We sat at a coffee shop, neutral territory, where neither of us held the home court advantage. She looked different, less polished, but somehow more authentic. The designer clothes and perfect manicure replaced by a simpler style. I have been in therapy, she began without preamble, twice a week since everything fell apart. At first I went because Mom and Dad insisted, but now I go because I need it. My therapist has helped me see some things about myself that are not pretty. I nodded but remained silent, letting her continue without interruption or reassurance. I treated you terribly. She acknowledged, her voice steady. Not just with the wedding gifts and the lies, but for years before that, I took advantage of your kindness and generosity. I saw your love as something to be exploited rather than cherished. I am deeply ashamed of that now. Thank you for saying that. I replied, careful to accept her apology without immediately rushing to comfort her. A pattern I was working to break. I do not expect forgiveness right away, she continued. I know I need to earn back your trust. I just wanted you to know that I am working on myself, trying to understand why I behaved that way and how to be better the things I did. The person I was becoming. I do not like that version of myself. It was the most self-aware I had ever heard Lauren sound. While I remained cautious, I could recognize the genuine effort behind her words. Over the following months, our relationship has begun to rebuild, not as the unbalanced dynamic of our past, but as something new. Lauren has made consistent efforts respecting my boundaries, acknowledging her past behavior, taking responsible for her choices without expecting rescue. She has begun paying back small amounts of money she had borrowed over the years. Not large sums, but symbolic repayments that represent her commitment to change our parents to have undergone a reckoning. The stark evidence of how their parenting choices contributed to Lauren's sense of entitlement and my excessive responsibility has been impossible to ignore. They have joined us for several family therapy sessions, difficult conversations where years of unspoken resentments and expected passions have finally been voiced. We put too much on you, Natalie, my father acknowledged during one session. We expected you to be the sensible one, the responsible one, the one who would always accommodate Lauren's needs. That was unfair, and I am sorry we did not see it sooner. My mother, who has found this adjustment more challenging, nodded tearfully. I always thought we were just recognizing your different personalities, but now I see we were creating them, shaping you both into these roles that became traps. As for me, I have used the money I saved by not purchasing extravagant wedding gifts to make a down payment on a small condominium. It is nothing like the luxury apartment Lauren had demanded, but it is mine. A space where I make the rules and set the terms I have decorated. It's simply but comfortably creating a home that reflects my values rather than anyone else's expectations. Perhaps the most unexpected outcome has been my involvement with a support group for people navigating toxic family dynamics. What began as seeking help for myself has evolved into offering guidance to others. I now volunteer as a financial counselor for the group, helping people establish independence from financially abusive relationships and set sustainable boundaries with family members. The lessons I have learned through this experience run deep. I have discovered that true love does not demand impoverishment, that genuine family bonds are strengthened by healthy boundaries rather than endless sacrifice. I have learned that sometimes the most loving thing you can do for someone is to stop enabling destructive patterns, even when that temporary withdrawal causes pain. Most importantly, I have learned that my value does not lie in what I can provide for others, in how much I can give or sacrifice or endure. My worth is inherent, not earned through martyrdom or purchased through gifts. Setting boundaries is not selfish, but necessary for authentic relationships built on mutual respect rather than exploitation. Lauren and I are not best friends, and perhaps we never will be, but we are building something more honest than what we had before. A relationship based on who we actually are, rather than the roles we were assigned in childhood. It is tentative and sometimes awkward, but it contains possibilities that our old dynamic never could. If you are in a relationship where your value seems measured by what you can provide, where love feels conditional on sacrifice, I want you to know that you deserve better. Setting boundaries is not about rejecting people who love you. It is about creating the conditions where genuine love can flourish. Sometimes the hardest but most necessary word in your vocabulary is simply no. What about you? Have you ever had to set difficult boundaries with family members who had unreasonable expectations? Share your experiences in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear that they are not alone in these struggles. Thank you for listening to my journey, and remember, true love builds you up. It never bankrupts you financially or emotionally.